If you've been struggling with OCD for years and decades in some cases, maybe it's taken different forms throughout your lifespan and you've tried all the gold standard treatments, the CBT, the ERP, exposure response prevention, other therapeutic modalities, and you've gotten worse, or it's been painful for you to do these treatments, overwhelming at times, or at best it's just temporarily remitted for a little while and then it came back. This video is for you. This is the first in a three-part series on how to actually recover from OCD. Hi, my name is John Hawkins Jr. I'm a licensed psychotherapist, certified trauma specialist, and co-founder of Hawkins Counseling Center. OCD can be one of the most intractable things to treat in the mental health community. And the reason this is the case in my experience and what the science I study shows is that OCD is actually not a disorder, it's a resource. And I know that may be hard for some of you to believe, and it is no way to diminish the stress and the hell that OCD causes. One of the criteria I can tell right away somebody doesn't have OCD is that they joke about it. Because if you have real legit OCD, it can be hell and torture, and it's horrendous. By the time many of my clients with OCD get to my office, if I told them to, climb a pole with peanut butter and eat 20 pickles on the top, they would do it gladly if it would take away their OCD. And they've tried, the gold standard, like I said, the ERP. If you found benefit in that, great. It's just never been my experience. I've never seen those approaches help someone fully resolve their OCD, and I'll explain why. But if you watch this video to the end, you're gonna get the first step in recovering from OCD. And so, like I said, OCD is actually a form of PTSD. And you may not think that you've got PTSD, but if you look at that on a scale of 1 to 10, and let's say, for sake of discussion, a 7 would meet criteria for PTSD as far as level of symptomatology. What happens is, what about everybody from 7 down, where there was energetic states or emotional states that they couldn't regulate at certain points in their life, particularly early on in our developmental period, and they had to split off and disassociate. Whatever we can't regulate, we disassociate or defend against. Now there's a neural network or part of us, a part of our personality structure that's holding some kind of emotional pain or wound or burden. That could be abandonment, shame, overwhelming grief, different forms of trauma, states of powerlessness. And that part, we start to develop another form or pattern of behavior or another neural network to prevent that part or that network from activating and flooding the body with the energy that was too much for us or getting further injured in the same way. So what happens with OCD, and why, anytime I put out a video on OCD, I get a lot of response, a lot of people contact me because they've been through all these standard treatments. And when you understand how the brain works, you understand why all these things at best can do is just manage some of the symptoms, but I haven't seen them resolve things. And then in some cases I've seen it be like cruel or just horrific. Some of the ERP approaches people use have flooded their system and made things 10 times worse. Because the OCD is a part of the personality that is trying, like I said, to prevent that pain from coming up or getting that pain added to. As human beings, we have multiplicity. We have a lot of neural networks in our brain. So we have, in therapy, we call them parts of our personality that do many different things. A lot of beneficial things, a lot of things that were once beneficial, that no longer are. So some examples I'll give you are, if you look at the form the OCD might take. So let's say I have a client who all of a sudden out of nowhere, they're a heterosexual client, start hearing a voice in their head that I'm gay. And so then that starts getting distressing to them. Am I gay? Am I not gay? Or whatever the intrusive thought may be. I need to tell my partner everything, that I was attracted to this other person today, or I had a sexual thought about them go through my head, so I need to confess this to my partner. Whatever that intrusion is that causes the distress. So then the person will spend so much time trying to chase down these different intrusive thoughts and figure stuff out. And all it's doing is reinforcing the neural networks associated with OCD. So if you look at, again, some of these examples, so let's say I have a client that says, they hear this voice in their head that says I'm gay. So I would say, what would happen if you were? And we follow that out until there's nowhere left to go. So in some of the clients I've worked with that have OCD parts that show up in that form, then I would feel shame, my family would abandon me. So there's some part holding that painful state of either shame, abandonment. You know, if I had a client who has to go back and check that they run over somebody, well, what would happen if I did? And if you follow that out, then maybe it's I'll end up arrested, in prison, isolated, powerless, disconnected from everyone. Or what if I offended God or someone, I need to go back and apologize or make amends, and this chronic fear of God being upset with me, and what would happen if he was or she was. And you follow it out, the person either fears like, I'm gonna end up in this isolated place of eternal torture. And maybe they were told that at 4 years old, and it generated an image in their mind, traumatized them, they disassociated that energy off, like I said, and now there's this part that's, you know, frozen, trying to figure all this out and chase all these, you know, what I call pulling leaves off of a tree. So that first step is identifying the core fear. What's the end of the line fear? That if all these things came true, if I didn't confess to my spouse, if I was, you know, a different orientation sexually or gender-wise than I thought I was, or if I offended God, or if I ran over something, whatever that may be, follow that out. Okay, what would happen then? And what would happen then? Because OCD will lead you on a wild goose chase like nobody's business. And even if you resolve that particular leaf on the tree, it just grows back into 20 more leaves. So if you have OCD, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So this is where it takes a little bit of discipline and effort, as I know it's so compulsive for sort of many of you, but to not go on this chase of trying to figure that thing out. Figure out where is that end of the line fear. Whether that's, again, ending up in a state where I feel trapped and isolated, alone, and not good enough, shameful, unworthy, abandoned. There is a part of us, a neural network, holding that pain that never got resolved, never got healed, never got cleared from the nervous system. And so the OCD part will just go on these rampages. And when you go along with those parts of you and start trying to figure all this out, like I said, you're just reinforcing the network of the OCD. I have used a lot of different approaches over the course of my career to help clients with OCD. The one and only thing I've ever seen get full resolution is internal family systems therapy. ADP therapy is one I use equally, and I would say both of those kind of integrated. I've had, you know, helped clients temporarily or reduce a lot of the intensity of these parts through EMDR, brain spotting, other things. But until you really clear that network, or what we call unburdening in therapy, and release the pain that other part is holding, the OCD part is going to show back up in some form, maybe a different form, maybe a less intense form, but it's going to come back again and again. So I would say the number one thing you can do, this first step, is identify what that ultimate fear is. You may think you're at the ultimate fear, but you're most likely at what I call an intermediate fear. So, you know, what if I did run over somebody? That's the intermediate fear. You know, what if my partner left me? That's the intermediate fear. It's not that, you know, what would I feel if they left me? Would I feel like massive amounts of regret, terrible aloneness, abandoned? You know, go until there's nowhere left to go. So, like I said, focus on the ultimate fear, and then in the next two videos, I'm going to explain to you what to do with that now, what step 2 would be, and then in the third and final video, what step 3 is. So if you made it this far and watched the whole video, I hope that gives you something to start to work with. My experience has been sometimes just even identifying what the ultimate fear is, not in every case, but a lot of times can bring the intensity level down. And then I don't go off on these wild goose chases, reinforcing my OCD network over and over and over again. So I hope you'll join us in video 2 and 3 to get to the other 2 steps in recovering from OCD. If you watched the video all the way to this point, I thank you. I hope it was beneficial to you. Every time you watch one of our videos to this point, you are helping other people. Because when people watch our videos on YouTube and they stay engaged and they watch long enough into the video, YouTube will show us to more people that need help. So you're contributing to helping others just by watching the video. If you'd like more information about this topic, in addition to the 2 videos that come following this, you can reach us anytime at hawkinscounseling.com, and we can hook you up with further resources or my wife and I, Bissan, would be more than happy to sit down and speak with you. And I look forward to seeing you in video 2 and 3, and hopefully you can get started on video 1 and start to use that right now to start to combat and recover your OCD.